Hey, welcome back. Part 2 of the Enhancement Talent for today. Eric Cornish and Rob here. And
Can I tell you before you start, I love these old theme songs that you drop in. They're so refreshing to hear.
well, I love that they kind of wanted to play up the Steiners when they were
That's the Steiner Brothers,
the early
right?
days. The Steiner Brothers in 1993, had their short run in WWE, and the music was kind of cheesy at the time. So that's their version of, I guess, the Michigan, fight song.
I was gonna say it
or
sounds
whatever,
like a college. It sounds like a college football theme song.
But that's kind of where you drew the inspiration for this episode, where you kind of went back to some of those old Raws on the WWE Network, right?
One of the things I've been loving most about the WWE Network, and it bothered me at first because there were a lot of holes in the first year, but they have all the old episodes of Raw. At least they're getting them up there. And now the entire 1993 is up there with, as near as I can tell, 0 episodes missing. And I've been watching them just chronologically. And in my head, I kept saying to myself, wow, you don't see that anymore. Whether it be a move or a certain aspect of the show, sometimes it's good, like Rob Bartlett. You just don't see him anymore.
Yeah.
My goodness, he's awful.
I'm so sorry I don't get to see Rob Bartlett anymore.
But then there's other times where they'll do a move, and I'm like, I used to see that move all the time growing up. Like, for example, one I'm going to throw at you here, Eric, is how many times growing up in let's say the mid-90s, would you see a wrestler just whip someone against the ropes, and then he'd come back and give a back body drop? And it looked devastating. They usually get a lot of height,
right?
Land flat on the back, and that was the move. You'd never see that anymore.
I got to tell you, if you if you go into the indies and you watch your basic training, and I've been there, I've been able to see a lot of that go on. Mm-hmm. That's one of the moves that gets thrown into the mix there with your first training. They're Irish whips, the hip tosses, the arm drags, the body slams, and the back body drops. And really, since Ric Flair retired, you really don't see the back body drop.
But I mean, Michaels, he took them a lot.
True.
I mean,
Michaels
in these old Raws, you see like one big back body drop per show.
Yeah.
And it's just they get a lot of height and it makes that big sound. It was very visually impressive.
And when Flair was in the ring, that was his go-to move. When he was calling a match, he was always going for that big back body drop where he would land on his side to protect his back.
I try to find a Raw or at least a pay-per-view from the mid-90s where you don't have an abdominal stretch.
That's true.
You never see that anymore.
And you know who I loved that did it better than anybody? Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, where he went the extra mile and grabbed the leg too. It didn't just look like a rest hold. It looked like he's really stretching this guy. And he probably was.
Or if he was a bad guy, like literally a heel, he'd even reach and grab the rope. Boy, imagine how much more pressure that would have added.
Gotta grab the rope. Or if there's a manager, grab the manager's hand.
Yeah.
That added leverage.
But I'm serious. Like, I've seen probably 100 abdominal stretches, all of them between 93 and 96.
True. Good point.
You don't see them anymore.
Very good point.
Do you want to throw out one, or do you want me to I've got more?
Go ahead. Because I've there's a lot in there, but I just can't bring them all to mind right now.
Seemingly every match, you could see an atomic drop or an inverted atomic
drop, which I saw on Twitter the other day. Lance Storm brought up a great point. Wouldn't an inverted atomic drop be the guy upside down with his head pointed toward the mat? That should be an inverted atomic drop.
Well, my friends and I, thanks to video games, when you create a wrestler, you can put in moves. The inverted atomic drop, for some reason, is called the Manhattan drop. So that's what we call that. I know it's not the official term, but yeah, when they're facing you doing that atomic drop, you used to see them all the time. Sometimes they'd be really big, like they'd lift the guy up and he'd start wiggling his legs.
The atomic drop is one of those moves that used to be a finisher.
Yeah.
Watch the old, who was it? I think, was it Bob Backlund that beat Superstar Billy Graham
that
with
might
the
be.
atomic drop?
Just an atomic drop.
That was a big deal. And the inverted atomic drop should be illegal. That would be a low blow.
It's kind of a low blow.
I'm just saying.
All right.
But yeah, that's a good one.
All right, Mr. Cornish. In the 90s, it was so commonplace to see a match end with a schoolboy after a distraction.
Oh, yes.
A wrestler's walking down the ramp or the walkway at that point. You could just sneak up behind him and roll him over like a schoolboy. That's not going to cut it anymore.
Well, I don't know. There's still some of that you will see. And if you go to an indie show, you'll probably see about half the card in that way.
Okay. If it happens on TV anymore today, it doesn't usually end the match.
That's
you can
true.
Still see a schoolboy, but it's not going to end the match.
That's true.
It is so rare anymore, especially compared to the 90s, to see a match end in a count-out.
Very true.
It happened quite commonly back in those early Raw days and those early PPVs. but not so much anymore. It's not a count out, or for that case, I didn't even write this one down, but a time limit DQ.
That was what I was going to bring up, and the time limit it's taken away so many options. Not having a time limit.
I agree. The time limit is a great feature that I wish would come back.
Yeah, I think so. And now,
WCW always did that better than WWE.
I agree. I agree that they did. I mean, because WWE always had a lot of different rules. If you remember this, here's something that always got to me. Like I could watch WCW and somebody would throw them over the top rope, and that would be an automatic disqualification. Well,
which to me was so confusing when I first started watching WCW.
Well, they do it in WWE, and nothing. There was no rules against that. I mean. And so it was very confusing. And then, there was a time when WCW, this is when Bill Watts came in, where you couldn't even jump off the top rope. That was illegal.
Right.
And so a lot of different rules. But yeah, that's funny that some of the rules have just kind of gone out the window. You don't even know what.
Well, the rules are sometimes they update football rules. They're looking at the point after touchdown,
that's true.
There was a time before there was a 3-point line.
Maybe they should come back. I say authority. Take it into control. Put time limits back in there. Maybe not the jumping off the top rope thing, but...
All right, what about as far as entrances go? Lights with shapes.
Love it.
I do too.
I'm so glad you said that.
Some great ones include the $1 Million Man's dollar sign in green. There was the gold razors for Razor Ramon. I love the 1, 2, 3 for the 1, 2, 3 kid.
And how about the Owen Hart, King of Hearts?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Bret Hart's Pink Hearts.
As a kid, before there was the HD screens and all that stuff, if you went to a house show, and I remember doing that as a kid, and you see the lights come on, I mean, that was the coolest thing ever. And it was you just wanted to see what kind of, cool sets that they would put. And I'll say this. You were talking about the difference between WWE and WCW, and everybody always claims that WWE had the best production of all time. They always had a better production than WCW. But when you look back, WCW was the first to really do the cool sets, the first to do pyro, the first to do the big long ramps and big stages, elaborate stages. If you look back at their old pay-per-views, so if you check that out on WWE Network, you'll see WCW was kind of ahead of the game on that, but the rest of the production always
I can understand
suffered.
what you're saying.
But anyway, yeah, I like that.
Some other ones, I remember Shawn Michaels had bubbles. Remember he had bubbles? Yeah. And Sid also had bubbles?
Yeah, that's true.
Don't ask me why they had bubbles.
Just,
I'm trying to think of some other really ones that are ingrained in me, but those are the big ones.
And then when they first started doing pyro, they first started kind of Fandango's thing that comes down now. You had the big Sid or the big warrior face.
Or remember Mark Merrow's the spinning pinwheel of fire?
Love it. And even before that, Aldo Montoya, believe it or not, had pyro.
Yeah.
The jobber had pyro. That's great. But anyway, that's awesome. A little reflection, and that's what's so great about the WWE Network. You go back and you can remember where you were watching this stuff, or you can relive it for the first time. I mean, I know you weren't even watching through some of that stuff.
No, a lot of these Raws I'm watching for the first time. I didn't start watching until 1994, so I'm going through 1993 and just. Right. I mean, it's all familiar to me, or another thing that I love about these, insert upcoming pay-per-view name, report.
Oh, the report.
The Royal Rumble report with Mean Gene.
Bring that back,
I love
please.
that.
Love it.
Or the recap. If the Royal Rumble was the night before, here's Mean Gene to recap what you missed.
Absolutely. Anyway,
I
always love to walk down memory lane with WWE Network. Tell us, if you've got the network, what have you experienced that takes you back? or
900 numbers.
I mean,
I'm full of them.
Yeah, hey, I can't tell you right now, but if you call me 109, 9900 or whatever it was, I'll give you all the scoop.
Lee Marshall brought. I need him to be broadcasting at a frat from Panama City, please.
All right, well, enough reminiscing for now, but let's see. Do you want to go to the WWE live event that's going on April the 27th at the Ford Center? You want to sit in the front row? You want to get this chair? You want to get T-shirts and all that good stuff? Well, here is your new link. Right there, go ahead and go to that link and sign up. And of course, if you want to, tell us what you miss about wrestling or what you love about the network,
we'll read them back.
Yeah,
this was fun.
Email us. A lot of fun. Thanks for joining us today.
I am, of course, Lee Marshall with Eric the Weasel Cornish.